What is one thing you're so hid from you until later in the relationship? My now husband acted like he knew how to grill steaks and just casually grabbed steaks and asked me how I like mine and then made perfect steaks. Then continued making perfect steaks for months, then years. And I just learned a month or so ago that the first time he made steaks for me was the first time he'd made steaks in his life. He just studied up intensely because he felt that I would be impressed by him making me a good steak. I thought he had been making steaks for years to throw down a perfect steak like it was no big thing, but it turned out he did a ton of research and was sweating bullets trying to get it right. He's the best. Kind of relevant story. I brought a girl over for a dinner date and cooked a steak that had been in my fridge for like 4 days. It was about to turn, but it was fine. I work in a meat shop and it was cut fresh when I got it, but I was kind of worried. Steak turned out fine. She loved it. Nothing happened that night. Next morning I drive her to work and I had to stop to let her throw up like twice. I felt horrible. Turns out she was pregnant with someone else's kid. Last steak she ever got from me. Edit. Thanks for the gold, stranger. Really glad that one of the saddest moments of my young adult life has become a good laugh for me and others, along with being my highest rated comment ever. He didn't really hide it, but I never knew the story of how his first wife passed away until we were engaged. I only knew that she had CF and that she died too soon. I didn't know that he came home from work, found her passed out in blue, and rushed her to the hospital himself, where she later died. He told me about it one evening when we were sitting in front of the Christmas tree. The whole story came pouring out of him, and I just hugged him and listened. His mother died 6 months after his first wife passed away, and to hear him tell it, it nearly broke him. I think it healed his heart a little to talk about it, and I know that it made me love him even more somehow. I'm just grateful that he was willing to open his heart up to love again. He is an awesome man and the best thing that has ever happened to me. Edit. Thank you for the gold, kind stranger. This one is for Dare Bear, for Debbie, and for me. His eldest daughter. I learned about her 3 months into our relationship. I had known about his younger daughter, different mothers, from the start. He was very open about that. However, he didn't know how to tell me about his eldest because it was going to be a difficult conversation. The mother of his eldest had taken off with her years ago, and he had no idea how to find her. Within a year of our dating we found her. It was very rough at first because she had been brought up being told that her father didn't care about her. Typical parental alienation. Within the next 5 years her father and I got married and she opted to live with us. Now she is an adult, living her life on her terms and we are incredibly proud of her. Edited too. Wow, I'm amazed at how this blew up and how many people are in similar situations. Going to take advantage of that to ask a question of my own. Can any Canadian lawyers tell me the process I would need to legally adopt the adult child in question? I'm not rolling in cash, so I'd like to save it for the actual legal fees instead of on asking the questions. He actually bought his favorite sweatshirt from Walmart. At first he told me Costco cause he thought it made him sound a little classier. The funny thing is that it sort of does. I mean, you have to be a Costco member. It shows commitment to be part of an elite institution, as well as responsibility to finishing 10 kilograms of Ruffles and 7-layer dip. Not to mention perseverance when finding parking at 2 PM on Saturday. A man who buys their favorite shirt from Costco is a man who can deal with my hit. My GF swoops her hair over her left eye. I thought it was just an emo hairstyle until I found out she was blind in one eye. As someone that is blind in one eye, I have a prosthetic that makes it look natural, although if you make eye contact you may think it's a lazy eye. When do you feel would be the right time to inform a partner? You have a golden opportunity here. Just make dinner for them, something that requires chopping, and while they're in another room, make a pained yelp, and then scream for them to come. Then pop your eye out, and place it next to the knife. Bonus points if you can squirt some ketchup around it, and on your face too. My GF, now wife, and I had been living together for 2 years before I told her I watched Star Trek. I was worried she would think I was too nerdy. It was the early 90s. I had a VCR at my parents' house and I would have dinner with them once a week. and then watch the latest episode of The Next Generation. It all came out one week when my GF and I were both over for dinner. We were getting ready to leave when my mom says, "Aren't you going to watch Trek first?" It was all out in the open. My GF immediately felt bad for me, saying she would never have judged me for watching Trek. She even watched a few episodes with me. I had on VHS at my parents' home. She liked it and thought the stories and themes were good. Trying to assuage my fears further, a few months later she surprised me with tickets for both of us to a Star Trek convention that was coming to town. So we went. After about 30 minutes walking around the con, seeing autograph booths, vendors, and cosplayers, she leaned into me and whispered lovingly in my ear, "You were right not to tell me." Not me, but my parents. My mom told me a few years ago that on their first date they went out for pizza. My mom's favorite is ham and pineapple and my dad says, "Great, I love pineapple on pizza." Fast forward years and years of my dad eating ham and pineapple, he finally confesses that he hates it. He actually ate HESS pizza for 20 years instead of just admitting that he hates it. This was one of her life lessons for me when I started dating. He liked to punch walls and himself when angry. Until we were married, our disagreements were always discussions. Sometimes heated, sometimes angry, but never violent, and always worked out to a solution in the end. It was great. It was the way adults should argue. The first fight after the wedding, he put his fist through the wall of our rented apartment. He also slammed his head into the bathroom door. Why the change? I've been holding back my anger, but now that we are married, I know you can deal with the real me. Up until then, he'd been way more angry and violent than I'd known about, but had hidden it during fights, so I wouldn't leave. Yeah, we are not married anymore. For many reasons, but one of them being that I never ever felt safe to disagree with him after that. My S/O didn't reveal until much later that a sizable inheritance came with the relationship. It was a wonderful surprise, especially because we were secure financially without it. This is one of the times that it makes complete sense to hide something from us, so at least for a little while. Even if someone isn't a gold digger from the start, a looming inheritance can certainly change people. I like to think I'm a good person. My family would help me out if I was struggling financially. But would I have broke up with my ex if she came with a few $1,000,000 as a bonus prize? Probably not. My friend is dating a farmer. No, they didn't meet on farmersonly.com. They did meet online though. Anywho, they've been dating for 5 months at this time, and he refuses to take her to his town and meet his family because he's had a lot of girls date him for what he owns. She waited a year and had no problems, and he finally brought her to his town and house, and his family is a multimillionaire family. They own like 15 farms across the US. Their house is a ducking mansion. She was super scared to be in the relationship after that. They're still dating, but she tried to buy her own things and not depend on him and his money. He could do magic tricks. We were together for 13 years, and one day he pulls out a deck of cards and says, "Pick a card, any card." Ducker got my card and everything, just as smooth as can be. Never did it again. OMG, my husband, after we were married, dated 3 years, busts out and turns a restaurant napkin into an origami crane. This guy's not suave at all. Typical awkward engineer. I'm completely baffled as to why he didn't try to impress me with this at the beginning. Engineer here. Origami with bar napkins is my go-to on first dates. Works wonders. Origami bouquets as presents are also very cheap and a stronger aphrodisiac than almost anything known to man apparently. Okay, story time. My wife and I play rummy for hours on end when we drink. One night as a joke, I tell her to pick a card. She picks it randomly. I separated the deck into 4 stacks and had her place her card on top of the stack of her choice. Now I do know a real trick that sets up like this, but I'm drunk and think it will be funny to mess it up on purpose. So instead of handling the cards, I tell her to shuffle them all up and cut the deck. When the deck is in 2 stacks, I tap the top card and say, "Okay, there's your card." It was her ducking card. Needless to say, I never did that trick again. My ex-girlfriend hid the fact that she was on bipolar medication before we moved in together in NC. After moving from New York, She then stopped taking her medication and then quit her job, leaving me as the sole income for the two of us. I was 23 years old and this was my first long-term relationship. We broke up a month after she quit her job. That was a very long month. Ducking. Subscribe to Reddit Throne. Ducking. Subscribe to Reddit Throne.